So tonight we have Dr. Dave Cornelius. It's going to take over our session in just a few minutes.
Tonight. I hope you guys are doing well. You guys doing well? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope so. So we will start with a little bit of networking. It's going to be a lot of interaction with teams. So I have a question, just one question. And what we'll do is that you'll pair up with someone. You have 1 minute each to respond to this question. And so the one question is, if you lived on a farm, which chore above all others would you definitely not want to do? Isn't that a cool question?
That's easy.
So, did everyone get the question? Okay, so just go ahead and self-organize. Who wants to be first? Go ahead and start. 1 minute.
I don't.
You guys, push your hand if you can hear me. Awesome. So here's the thing. You know, most of us live by a lot of anecdotal evidence, right? People tell us that Scrum is the most awesome thing in the world. And some of us believe it's a silver bullet, right? Some of us do. And I know most of the people in this room have a different perspective than that, but there's a lot of people out there who are still living in the dark. And the key is, I want you guys to be the next evangelist to go forward and talk about Scrum in a way where you have actual evidence, actual proof that it has added value to another organization. So what I've done is I brought you some proof. I brought you some evidence, and you will use this evidence tonight to figure out your own perception based on what others have said. So let me pass this around. You can share them around the table. Make sure everyone gets one. And so this is what we'll spend our time doing tonight, part of it. So here's our agenda. We're going to talk about the history of Scrum and my little journey using Scrum. We'll talk about the problem statement of this research that I did, which is called The Value of Scrum to Organization. It was a case study. Look at it, what was the research design? What type of questions did I ask? Who participated? What was the findings? What did we learn? And basically what you have is the research findings after about a year worth of chatting with a lot of people and gathering information. And finally, we're going to get into a workshop where you guys could either look at the findings and do some evaluation based on your own experience, or come up with your own. What's your perceived value of Scrum in your organization? And what is really agility doing for your organization? So here's the history of Scrum. So right around 1986, we have these two gentlemen from Japan who wrote this article that ended up in the Harvard Business Review. And about 1993, Sutherland came up with the Scrum process for software. 2001, Manifesto came out, big deal. Scrum Alliance in 2002. I said the Scale Agile Framework came out in about 2007. And of course, the fun part, right? Very important stuff. But so I want to say there are more great historical Scrum moments, and why don't you guys just fire back? What are the great historical Scrum moments have you had? None? Go ahead.
Getting a Scrum Master training with Kim back in 2005, I think.
Nice.
Kim and Tobias Meyer.
Nice.
Paul.
And Paul? Joe, I thought you had your hands up.
2 days ago, I got people to break down stories to the very smallest level.
Yeah. No one else has any great Scrum stories?
2000, Robert Holler handed me whatever that first Scrum book was, Robert Holler from version 1, before he had started version 1. And I read it and I told him that was the stupidest thing I ever saw. It was the Kent Beck book. I said, you're out of your mind.
What else do you guys have? Any other great Scrum moments? Cornelius.
Similar to what Mike just said, in about 2007 or so, I listened to the first podcast about Scrum, and I thought, yeah, that's not going to go anywhere.
There you go. I'm missing something very important on this chart. Who could guess what it is? Where are you tonight? No one knows where you are tonight? Paul and Paul, when did you guys start? You know, AgileSoCal. That is a great moment that's missing on this chart. Well, geez, duh. I had a V8, right?
That was just a given.
Well, yeah. I left it off just for a joke. But I believe that's one of the great moments. But anyone wants to give feedback, ideas, discussions, description of what systems thinking is? No? Well, I kind of like put it out there because I'm just playing around. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Roger.
You're looking at the whole, I'm sorry.
I can try.
No, you can't. Certainly can't. You're Roger.
Well, I have a master's degree in it,
There you go.
but it was so long ago. Systems thinking is a body of understanding complex interactions, nonlinear interactions between components in a system, which are arbitrarily defined, so we can understand what we call counterintuitive behaviors. Surprises from the complexity, because they're not linear. You push in one direction and things move in a direction you didn't expect.
And that's true, right? Because they're called feedback loops. They're balancing and reinforcing loops. And I'll give you a little bit more. John, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, just when Roger was saying that, the first thing that came to my mind was like the Stacy curve. Things get worse before they actually get better. And so somehow you disassociate on a visceral level the improvement from the actual cause, because normally in simple systems we think, well, cause and effect, you can just see them happening both right there before your eyes.
My research was a qualitative multi-case study, which means I sat down and talked to lots of people, asked them lots of questions, got lots of feedback, got lots of data, which I had to then create, and we call things codes and then themes eventually. So, yeah, I listened to lots of people, and they had great stories to share as well. And I also wanted to know, like, really, you know, well, how did people really perceive this Scrum thing? You know, what was it doing for them? I was asking, what is Scrum doing for you? And so that's one of the questions that I really wanted to discover in this process. And was it helping? Was it hindering? And so these are some of the questions that I'm asking people. And you know, what happened in your daily work? Were you getting better? Finally, I'll tell you about my favorite questions, but you'll see it later on that I had in this research. It was like 29 questions, but there was 2 that I thought that was really fun and really got people to like come out of themselves. Here's a simple workflow. And does this happen today in real life? As you're building software, do you guys have those experiences? If you went from customer wants quality software, business defines software requirements, developers build software per those requirements, and software is something that doesn't meet the customer. Go ahead.
I would, Dan North has challenged, though, this perspective that Scrum follows the Agile Manifesto. He actually has stated, I'm paraphrasing here, but Scrum is more or less is completely an opposite to the Agile Manifesto. That would go in complete contradiction to what you're trying to indicate here. I'm not saying you're right and he's wrong, or vice versa, but he has actually argued that, for instance, the rigidity of the Scrum process is a complete and utter stepping back from the concept where individual interactions should be the first and foremost thing, not the processes and tools. And he goes through them one by one, all 4, and says, Scrum is not Agile. So how would you, in contradiction to this, well, how would you respond?
That Scrum isn't Agile?
Yes.
My response was Scrum is Agile.
So,
in terms of trying to counterbalance, without knowing all of the details
yeah.
of what he said, it would be hard for me to stand here and counterbalance that.
Right, I can go through them, but I'm not sure if this is the right time, or if I should wait till the end.
Yeah.
Definitely the terms aren't interchangeable, and I see a lot of people using the terms interchangeably. I agree, there's some points of Scrum that sort of limit the agility that people can have, right? But it sets a
structure that people can feel comfortable with. But they're not interchangeable words.
Can you really, what I would say, deliver agility just based on its principles?
That's, I forget, one of the other signatories
point
was
is,
arguing about 6-8 months ago.
The point is that Scrum is one implementation of Agile.
Yeah, it's a framework.
Yeah. But it's one implementation. There are many other implementations of Agile as well. So, you know, like he says, Agile and Scrum are not interchangeable.
No,
Agile is not a methodology, for example.
Go ahead, Steve.
One of the, so on the back side of the Agile Manifesto is the, what is it, practices or principles?
12 principles.
Principles,
Yeah.
12
okay.
principles.
Well, one of them says we prefer to deliver on the shorter time scale,
Mhm.
right? So that implies that there is some thinking about delivery, right? And I always go with this analogy is, what is your dream house, right? What would you like to build as your dream house? And it would take you forever to figure it out,
Mhm.
right? But then if we said, well, okay, you have to be able to build it in North America, and it has to be, you know, this.
Area
You're
constraints.
right. So then you gotta have to start getting some constraints. So I just see Scrum as being a way, is it's a framework to help with the delivery.
And I agree with you, John.
Well, I see a paradox that can't be resolved when Jeffries and Sutherland say that this version of Scrum in the Scrum Guide is immutable. And it's been revised 100 times.
Isn't the whole principle of continual improvement the whole point of agility?
Yes.
And agility is a principle, and the reality of it is that you need a framework to move it
It's a
forward.
slippery issue, you know, how many teams have I come across that say, let's be agile and skip the stand-up?
Well,
You know, I mean,
well, is that really being agile?
no.
Well, there you go.
Shoe however you apply.
Maybe they don't need to stand up.
It's-
You don't
I
have to
think
stand
people
up.
are going to have different perspective.
Hey, did we find anything that was similar between the teams and their posting? Was there anything the same? Did anyone have the same experiences?
Well, they lie a lot.
They lied a lot? Yeah. That could be
That's
true.
what I thought.
That's what you thought. The reason that I tried this experiment is because it's the same thing when you look at perceived value. Everyone has a different perspective based on their experiences.
Yeah, some of them were more from the perspective of what wasn't working, and others from the perspective of what was working.
Yeah. And that happens. And that was the whole point of this, was to see how much harmony or synergy we would find between just disparate individuals sitting in this room, to see how they would tie together. And I had a strong indication that it may be the case that we all have different thoughts and different experiences. But with that, that essentially brings me to the end of my presentation. Oh, yeah, whack. And so there's one thing I want to share with you, and I'll steal this off your desk, is that part of my, I'm a big believer in servant leadership. So one thing that I do, I have a nonprofit, and one thing we do, and we started about a year ago, is this program called 5 Saturdays. And so for 5 Saturdays, what I've done is that I work with a church in LA, and we work with high school students. So I teach them things like creative thinking, critical thinking, effective communication. Teach them Scrum. Actually, people were doing stand-up, doing planning, retrospectives, and 14 to 18-year-olds. And I also teach them software development concept using this tool called Alice. So that's part of my journey. So what I would like to share with you is that go to 5saturdays.org, see what's going on there. We have a curriculum. We make sure that that's available to anyone for free. And John has been a contributor also with some of the Scrum stuff that we're doing there as well. And you know, you guys could contribute as well, because what I'm really doing is building these small communities that we could go out and multiply as we go. So I'm hoping my great plan is that in this spring we'll bring it down here to Orange County and set one up with a church where we could really maybe work with some kids who are at risk, maybe some kids who are in an orphanage, but we could pretty much what I call, we have all this great time and space that we could use to help others. So that's part of my deal as well. So if you guys are really interested, go to 5saturdays.org, learn more. You could donate, help to move the program forward. And it's not just money. It's also, you could donate time. You could donate the knowledge and experience that you have. And with that, I would like to say thank you for having me tonight and sharing in my experience of my research. And I hope you guys learned something today and you could walk away and say like, yeah, that was worth it tonight. You know, I gave up a few hours and I had a good time and I met a few friends. And that's cool. So thank you so much.
And what you'll get is one about the 5 Saturdays. And the second one is going to be about the role of the project manager in a lean and agile world.
Wow. Yeah, we actually hung out for a few days at PMI Global Congress in Phoenix. Good time.
Dave,
Yeah.
you mentioned that you are a servant leader. So is that possible for you to give me a ride home tonight?
Same guy with the 29 questions.
Dan and I go way back. So.
You mentioned how to do it.